Believe in yourself. The story of the unstoppable dreamer. Chapter 1. The Dreamer in a World of Doubt. The village of Sundara was a place of simple routines. Nestled between towering mountains and vast green fields, its people lived by the rhythms of nature, planting seeds in spring, harvesting in autumn, and gathering around fires in winter to share stories. But among them was a boy who saw the world differently. Arjun was 12 when he first held a piece of charcoal from the hearth and drew on the flat surface of a river stone. The lines were clumsy, but something inside him stirred. He saw faces in the clouds, stories in the rustling leaves, and colors in the sunset that no one else seemed to notice. His father, Harish, was a farmer, a man of calloused hands and practical wisdom. "Dreams don't fill stomachs, Arjun," he would say when he found his son sketching instead of tending to the crops. "Art is for kings, not for boys like you." His mother, Leela, was softer, but equally concerned. "What if you give your life to this and end up with nothing?" she asked one evening, her voice trembling. Arjun clenched his fists. "But what if I don't try at all? Then I'll always wonder." Chapter 2. The First Brush with Rejection. At 16, Arjun gathered his best sketches, a collection of village life, the mountains at dawn, and portraits of his family, and presented them to the village elders during the annual harvest festival. The elders, men of tradition, frowned as they flipped through his work. "These are childish," said Elder Mohan, his voice laced with disdain. Elder Ravi, a former soldier, scoffed. "You want to waste your life drawing while others work?" The laughter of the villagers burned worse than the midday sun. That night, Arjun sat by the river, staring at his reflection in the water. Was he a fool for believing? Then an old wandering monk who often passed through the village sat beside him. "Why do you draw?" he asked. Arjun hesitated. "Because it feels like breathing." The monk smiled. "Then never let anyone take your breath away." Chapter 3. The Leap of Faith. With nothing but a small satchel of clothes, a pouch of charcoal, and a heart full of hope, Arjun left Sundara. He walked for days until he reached the bustling city of Rajnagar, where merchants traded silk and spices, and artists painted murals in temples. But the city was not kind to dreamers. He slept in alleyways, surviving on scraps, until he found work as a servant in the household of merchant Gorak. For 2 years, he swept floors, washed dishes, and endured the taunts of other servants who mocked his foolish dream. Yet every night, by the dim light of an oil lamp, he drew. One evening, Gorak's daughter, Mira, a girl with a sharp mind and a love for poetry, found his hidden sketches. These are alive," she whispered. Arjun flushed. "They're just scribbles." Mira shook her head. "The world tries to silence those who see it differently. But you must speak louder." With her help, Arjun began painting on discarded pieces of cloth. She smuggled him books on art and introduced him to Master Vishwanath, a once great painter now lost to drink. Vishwanath took one look at Arjun's work and grunted. "You have passion, but passion without discipline is noise." For the next 3 years, Arjun trained under him, enduring harsh critiques, sleepless nights, and moments of crushing self-doubt. But with each stroke, he grew stronger. Chapter 4. The Storm of Fate. When the Royal Art Exhibition was announced, Arjun knew this was his moment. The winner's work would hang in the palace, seen by kings and scholars. For months, he poured his soul into a single painting, the unbroken dawn, a sunrise over the mountains of his homeland, symbolizing hope that never dies. But when he presented it, the judges, men of rigid tradition, sneered. "Too bold," said one. "Where is the refinement?" scoffed another. Rejected again, Arjun stood outside the gallery, rain mixing with his tears. "Why do I keep fighting?" he whispered. Then Mira's voice echoed in his mind. "Because the world needs your light." That night, a storm unlike any other ravaged the city. The gallery's roof leaked, ruining the perfect paintings inside, all except Arjun's. His thick, layered strokes had resisted the water. The colors blazed brighter, as if the storm had unveiled their true power. When the king arrived the next morning, he stopped before Arjun's work. "This," he declared, "is truth." Chapter 5: The Legacy of Belief. Arjun became the royal artist, his works treasured across the land. Yet, his greatest masterpiece was the lesson he left behind. The world will try to break you. But if you believe, truly believe, in the fire inside you, no storm can extinguish your light. Years later, an old man from Sundara visited the palace. It was Elder Mohan. "I was wrong," he admitted, tears in his eyes. "You proved us all wrong." Arjun smiled. "No, I just proved myself right." And so, the boy who refused to stop believing became a legend, not for his art alone, but for the unshakable faith that created it. Chapter 6: The Price of Success. As Arjun settled into his new life at the royal palace, he discovered that success brought its own challenges. The court artists who had once ignored him now eyed him with resentment. Whispers followed him through the marbled halls. "That peasant painter only got lucky. His work lacks true technique. The king pities him." One evening, as Arjun worked on a new mural for the throne room, senior artist Devrat accidentally spilled ink across his preliminary sketches. "My apologies," Devrat said with a smirk. "Clumsy of me." Arjun's hands trembled, but he forced a smile. "No harm done. I'll simply paint something better." That night, alone in his chambers, he allowed himself one moment of despair. Then he remembered the riverbank in Sundara, the feel of charcoal in his fingers, the certainty that had carried him this far. "I didn't come this far to stop now," he whispered, and began anew. Chapter 7: The Test of Integrity. When the neighboring kingdom's ambassador visited, he offered Arjun unimaginable wealth to defect. "Our king will give you 10 times what you earn here," the ambassador murmured during a private garden stroll. "Your own estate, servants, freedom from these petty court games." Arjun studied the golden bracelet the ambassador pressed into his palm, enough to feed his village for a year. Then he thought of Mira's faith in him, of the king who had seen truth in his art. He returned the bracelet. "Some things," he said, "are worth more than gold." News of his loyalty spread, earning him the king's deepest trust and Devrat's bitterest envy. Chapter 8: The Fire That Forged Greatness. Devrat's sabotage escalated. Arjun's pigments went missing. False rumors spread that he'd insulted the queen. Then, on the eve of the king's birthday celebration, someone set fire to Arjun's studio. He awoke to smoke and chaos, lunging through flames to save only one thing: the first charcoal sketch he'd ever made in Sundara. As the embers died, the king found him kneeling in the ashes, the singed paper clutched to his chest. "Who did this?" the king demanded. Arjun looked up, his face streaked with soot and tears. "It doesn't matter. The art isn't in the walls, it's in here." He touched his heart. Moved by his grace, the king commissioned a grand new studio and assigned Devrat to clean its brushes as punishment. Chapter 9: Coming Full Circle. At 35, Arjun returned to Sundara, as the kingdom's most celebrated artist. The villagers who had mocked him now bowed. His parents, older but proud, wept as he presented them with a painting of their family, one that captured not just their faces, but their love. That night, by the same river where he'd once been ridiculed, Arjun met a shepherd boy secretly drawing with a stick in the dirt. "Keep going," Arjun murmured, placing real charcoal in the boy's hands. "The world needs your light too." As he walked away, he heard the boy's gasp of wonder, the same sound he himself had made decades ago when art first set his soul alight. Final chapter: the brushstrokes of legacy. On his deathbed at 82, surrounded by generations of students, Arjun's final words weren't about technique or fame. "Believe," he whispered, "even when you stand alone, for that belief becomes the fire that warms others long after you're gone." When the funeral pyre was lit, villagers swore they saw the flames dance into the shape of a soaring eagle, just like the one in Arjun's very first childhood sketch. And in the Royal Museum, beneath his greatest masterpiece, a single phrase was engraved: "He believed when no one else did, and taught us all to see."